Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here to help us support this critical charity. Without your support, I wouldn't be here to speak, so thank you. Let's jump right in. I'm 7 years old, and we've just came home from a doctor's appointment to find out CPS has picked up my 4 sisters and are looking for me as well. My mom is sending me to live with my grandma Lula, my dad's mom, a place I've only visited a handful of times and have never felt welcome. Knowing this, my mom has the cab driver drop her off only 10 minutes into the trip, leaving me to weather Lula's wrath all alone. Driving on Monaco Parkway, looking at the droopy trees through my tears as we make the long drive, I start to wonder where my sisters are, what they're doing, and if I could have prevented this had I stayed home. While not welcome, Lula said she would let me live there because she didn't want to be embarrassed that she had a grandchild in foster care. I lived with her for 7 years, and it was honestly the worst home I ever lived in. You see, I usually find myself among strangers because I drift here and there, trying to forget the sad things that happened to me. Thank you, F. Scott Fitzgerald, for that quote. My name is Chelsie McFall. I'm 29, and I'm a survivor. I grew up in a battlefield between broken homes and foster care. My mom was an alcoholic, my dad didn't exist, and my sister's dad, who lived with us, beat my mom daily with us as the audience. As the oldest, my role was keeping my sisters and myself safe, as well as my mom when I could. I took care of everyone morning and night. Each morning I woke everyone up, got us ready for the day. If there was food, I fed us and walked us to and from school. After being put in foster care and split up, my sisters and I rarely seen each other, and it was extremely hard getting caseworkers and foster parents to schedule visits. That all changed at 9 years old when we were assigned a court-appointed special advocate, aka a CASA. In Spanish, CASA means home, and Mrs. Helen provided us the same stability as a house, which we had never had before. Mrs. Helen Colson entered our lives and became like a real-life guardian angel and our grandmother. After so many adults had left our lives, broken promises, and disappointed us, Mrs. Helen filled a deep void. Miss Helen never had to tell us that she wasn't going anywhere because she made it crystal clear from day one through her actions. She fulfilled every promise and always followed through. She was the only constant in our lives. For the first time, she gave us something to look forward to, even if we were just meeting to hang out at the park or at my apartment to celebrate one of my sister's birthdays. Without a doubt, I can honestly say Miss Helen is the sole reason my sisters and I maintained contact with each other throughout our childhoods. Her number one goal was ensuring we always had each other's contact information, being sure to inform us immediately if one of the girls moved homes. Even when her appointment through the courts closed, she was committed to us. She visited and checked on us even though my mom made it very clear she was not welcome. Miss Helen never skipped a beat, continuing to stop by, call, and make her presence known so my mom knew there was someone who cared about us and wasn't going to let her mistreat us. At times, my mom was so belligerent towards Miss Helen, I thought she would try to cause her bodily harm, and I was completely prepared to do everything in my power to defend her, all out of the immense love I had for Miss Helen. As the years went on and I moved into adulthood, Miss Helen was present for all the major events in my life and continued to shower me with love. Each Easter, I knew I would check the mail and have an Easter card from her telling me Happy Easter and that she loved and missed me. She was such an amazing woman, and I feel so grateful to have been loved by her. And I especially like to thank the CASA organization for providing the platform for amazing people like Miss Helen and the rest of the CASAs to touch the lives like my sisters and mine. Miss Helen provided us values, self-respect, hope, unconditional love, and made us feel like we mattered. My hope is every abused and neglected child can get their very own Miss Helen. After we were removed from her care, my mom was unable to get sober. Ultimately, she failed several rehab programs and her parental rights were revoked for the first time when I was 11. When I was 14, a judge threatened to throw my mom in prison for being a menace to society. Having a deep fear of going to prison prompted her to get sober for the first time. Due to budget cuts, Just 3 years after her parental rights had been terminated, the court restored them and we were returned to her. Her sudden ability to fight what so many called a sickness and become completely sober felt like a slap in the face. It had taken the threat of going to prison for her to put forth an effort. Needless to say, it didn't last long. Before my 15th birthday, she started drinking again, and I had to get a job to help with the bills and resume being the parent to my 4 younger sisters and mother. Soon after, we were removed from her home for the second and final time. My sisters and I were separated forever. We have all had our own struggles overcoming the shadows of our pasts. 3 of my sisters are still trying to find their way. They grapple with establishing independence, supporting themselves both financially and emotionally, and living on their own. They still look to me for money, a place to live, and if I say no, the pressure of our past and confused roles and relationships lead to them completely cutting me off for long periods of time. My mom has remained sober from alcohol, but has switched her dependence to prescription drugs. And recently I found out we have another sibling that I know nothing about. That means there's 6 of us, and I don't know where that sibling is. After moving repeatedly, switching schools numerous times a year, and having to take care of myself and others, I learned to be resilient from a young age. My focus became centered on giving myself a different life than my childhood dictated, and being a good example for my sisters. I moved into my first apartment on my 18th birthday, bought a condo at 19, and paid for my own wedding at 21. I wanted my sisters to know that regardless of our past, we could determine our own futures. Throughout my journey, 2 of my supporters were my Grandma Adeline and my Casa, Mrs. Helen. Sadly, I lost both of them within a year of each other, and I'm certain they're in heaven. As my grandma was my family, Mrs. Helen was a volunteer, and I'd love to continue to make them proud and carry on Mrs. Helen's legacy of serving others. She was for the child, she was for me, she was my champion. I am currently running my own nonprofit, helping at-risk youth transition to adulthood. If at all possible, I'd like to save others from having to touch the stove to learn that it's hot. My dream is to use my trials and tribulations to instill hope in others and help convey the tools necessary to build successful futures. I would like to end a quote from Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. "Then said a rich man, 'Speak to us of giving.' And he answered, 'You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give.' Thank you all for your ear and your time. Please be generous with your heart for the children. Thank you."